Want to wake up an aircrew during mandatory crew rest time? Fine, we'll cancel mission critical flights. This was 10 years ago in Iraq, at Cobb Spiker. I was part of an aircrew that flew mission critical nighttime flights. I wasn't a pilot, but I flew in a support role in the back seat. We were lucky enough to each have our own little private rooms, called aircrew, with an air conditioner in each room, and blackened out windows. It was easy to sleep all day, then wake up at 1600 hours or 1700 hours and head to work. We had big signs on our doors, day sleeper. Do not disturb. Come back after 17:00. The contractor in charge of safety and maintenance of the chus, it was KBR, I think, decided one day they needed to inspect the smoke alarms and fire extinguishers in every room. It's a reasonable request. My boss gave KBR a list of rooms not to disturb until after 1700 hours. Of course, they ignored the list, and we were all awakened to workers banging on our doors and letting themselves in. Just doing my job, sir. Aircrews are required by civil and military law to have adequate crew rest. It's more than, hey, get some sleep. It's a strict number of hours before flying that should be undisturbed. It can become a very big deal, legally, if there's an accident, and it's later revealed the pilot or aircrew member wasn't given a chance to properly rest. As inefficient as the military can sometimes be, it's amazing what a single well-placed phone call can do. My boss shamelessly cancelled the evening's flights, and called Colonel Head Honcho to tell him why. We never saw KBR again. They avoided us like the plague. Now to the comments. Things I learned from military malicious compliance. 1. Always answer the barracks door with a beer. And now 2. Get a critical night shift job, get guaranteed sleep or not responsible for job. Rule number 1 is more than just in the military. If you have a job that likes to call people in on their day off, always, when called and asked what you're doing, say you're just watching TV while enjoying a few beers. They won't call you in if you've been drinking. You overestimate my work's ethics. Back when I served in the Royal Norwegian Air Force, the officer who showed us around pointed out a building with blacked out windows, and told us that anyone even considering playing a prank on those sleeping inside could just head over to the admin building and request a transfer to base maintenance. Honestly, any prank that wakes people up is not funny, just mean. Sleep is priceless. It sounds like the colonel, and possibly a few other people, had a nice and friendly chat with the head of maintenance, to exchange pleasantries, advice, and encouragement, possibly with tea and cupcakes or maybe some cucumber sandwiches, or they ripped them a new one, the size of a hangar door. While the second one is slightly more probable, the first one might actually be quite a bit scarier. I'd imagine Lord Veterinary would do something like this. Only after noticing a mistake, buried in the middle of a large amount of text, both back to front and upside down. But of course, they'd be absolutely free to do it again. Wouldn't dream of stopping them, that would make him a despot. Military for 20 plus years, aviation support for the last 12 of it. I really was expecting some high-in-his-pants officer to come knocking on your doors to do a police call. I've seen it done in the past. Some idiot read somewhere that a soldier only is required 6 hours to sleep by regulations and that 6 hours is subject to extras duties. I've seen more than one asshole with shiny on their chest disappear for waking the air crews to do extra shit. I've lost friends in 2 helo crashes. Both times the investigators heavily attributed the lack of adherence to crew day for the crashes. One was straight up the skipper's fault. Had the crew, which included himself, at early morning PT, event briefings during the day, then a low-light flight at night. Rip Wally. The second was similar but off the boat. An entire day of briefings and planning that members of the crew needed to attend, followed by a long flight over water, then low light over land, then back over water to the boat. I am so glad the air wing doesn't care about the 3710 when they do their scenarios. Rip Sean. Perv, Aaron, Grant, and Obra. Same kinda rules apply to commercial truck drivers, and it's ridiculous what some employers will try to get away with to make them drive more than they are legally allowed to do. Same with railroad employees. Federally mandated to have 10 hours of undisturbed rest before being able to work again. If a company representative calls you in that time, the clock restarts. No such rules for EMS workers. I can be taking care of your mom at the end of a 36-hour shift and nobody sees a problem with that. Of course, they ignored the list. Classic KBR. I had a similar situation in Iraq. Those dudes would visit my CHU numerous times a week. One day, they'd check the fire extinguisher, the next the light fixture, then the day after that, they'd look at electrical outlets in the room. If only there was some way to do all of those checks at once rather than returning every day, waking up soldiers supporting operations. It's probably so they could charge more. Why am I talking to myself? I wish they had the same type of mandating for other jobs. During my time in the army, we were in Iraq doing field artillery ops. I was stuck on a base of 50 people, only 5 of us were E4 or below. I was the only medic and cross-trained to operate a raid camera. Initially the shifts were decent, 8 hours on, 4 hours medic duty, and 12 off. It changed about a month in when they needed the other lower enlisted to drive or do other duties. They had me on that camera for 42 straight hours. No break time, meals brought to me and I was reamed for getting up to go take a piss. Asked the NCO in charge and explained that I had been on it for something like 36 hours. He told me you'll be alright and went to sleep. Nothing got done until after 40 hours when I let the colonel know. Seriously ducked the military. That's not the military. That's piece of shit leaders. That kind of shit is everywhere in the military, man. Shit sucks. AHH. Always cover your ass, CYA. If you'd have done the missions and something happened, you're going to be screwed because why didn't you inform your superiors? This way, you informed your upstream and they'll be the ones to take the blame for anything. We never saw KBR again, hahaha, but I bet they still billed you for their time that you didn't see them. Source, I work for them. Me, rubbing shit out of my eyes, in pajamas. Sure SSGT, I can help you with these extra tasks, but I need you to run it past, company commander, as I was one of the 2 crew chiefs in her aircraft tonight. Wide-eyed E6. Nope thanks SBC, wrong room, go back to bed. I only got to do that a few times in my career, but yeah, everyone involved took it seriously and people would routinely sit out for illnesses. Spiker, where I had to burn poop. Don't miss it. Oh, you poor bastard. We came so close to having that duty for a new fob we were helping build. A day before it started, whoever was in charge found someone else to do it, and we all breathed a collective sigh of relief. My condolences, brother. I was there in 03. No choice. Holy shit, I was a tanker and there were absolutely no requirements for minimum rest. Mission first. Sometimes we were up for days, especially if your tank had mechanical issues. It's difficult commanding 3 guys, being responsible for a killing machine and its operation, and firing off rounds when you're so sleep deprived that you're seeing witches in the air and big cats running along beside you. 10 years ago. When exactly? I was out in Cobb Spencer. Spiker and Fob Brassfield Mora from spring of 08 till summer of 09. OP replied. I arrived in the spring of 2009, can't remember when exactly, around April/May. Stayed until Thanksgiving. I was in the AMC compound which, I think, stood for Army Material Command or some shit like that. Everyone else was in an LSU which, again, I think stood for Life Support Unit. God dang, so many acronyms. LOL, oh yeah. If it's a thing, it has an acronym. The ones you mentioned sound familiar, but I couldn't tell you what they mean, either. I was a combat engineer doing route clearance all day, every day. 99% bored out of your mind, and 1% oh shit duck duck duck.